Sharon, are you going back to your parents' house this week?
Yeah, I'm going to check on Mom.
Can I go with you? I haven't seen your mom since our wedding 2 years ago.
Can you stay home, Mike? Mom couldn't relax with you.
As usual, I was turned down. Sharon lost her father to illness when she was in junior high school. Her mother, who had raised Sharon single-handedly, lives in a rural area, running a small cafe, and she's not in good health due to her asthma. Sharon always goes back home during her long weekends from work, concerned about her mom, but she never took me along for some reason. Why? I'm technically your son, even if just by marriage, right?
Just do as I say, please.
She refused me again, gently but firmly, and I was knocked down once more. Why doesn't she want to take me to her house? We got married 2 years ago after dating for 2 years, and I still can't figure out why. Other than that, married life is going well. She works at the same company, in a different department. And although she's a little clumsy at times in her personal life, it only made her more endearing. In short, I'm head over heels for Sharon. Then one day, a young male employee was promoted from the countryside to my department.
I'm Eddie. Nice to meet you.
Eddie was quite the handsome guy even to me, a man. While I sighed as seeing the female employee's glances changed, I taught Eddie his job. Eddie was excellent. Though he didn't talk much, his gentle manner was popular with clients, and most importantly, he was a quick learner. Once taught, he never needed to be told again. This young guy is surprisingly serious. No wonder he got promoted from the countryside. I took a liking to him, and he seemed to respect me. Work-wise, there were no issues. Just one thing nagged at him. Eddie and Sharon seemed unnaturally close. It wasn't anything overt, like flirting. How to put it? They just seemed very comfortable with each other when talking about work. They looked too natural standing together.
Mike, aren't you bothered by that?
Even the unnecessary comments from female colleagues never ceased, and though I brushed it off with a laugh, I was bothered deep down. But I couldn't ask Sharon. I didn't want to seem like a small man. I didn't realize at the time how much I would regret this petty pride. 3 months after Eddie's arrival, I was called in by my boss. I was being considered for a transfer to the Japanese branch. This was the golden path to success in my company. I was thrilled by the opportunity. As I left my boss's office, I wondered what to tell Sharon, but I thought it would be fine. Sharon, who works at the same company, would surely understand how important the move to Japan is. I believed she would come with me.
I'm sorry, I can't go.
Sharon's decision at dinner was swift and firm. Why?
I can't leave my mom alone. I'm sorry, can you go on your own, Mike?
Wait a minute. I understand worrying about your mom, but you're my wife, right? I wanted to say that she should prioritize me, but only screamed it inside my head. But she refused to budge. In the end, it escalated into a big fight. I think that she, who valued her family, is a wonderful woman. But is it wrong to want her to prioritize me, her husband, above all else?
I'm sorry, but I'm not planning to discuss this any further. Forgive me.
After those words, to my surprise, she left the house. She's probably going to stay in a hotel. I didn't chase after her. I wanted to be alone to cool my head. The next day, I went straight to the Human Resources Department. When I arrived at the office, Sharon hasn't answered any of my calls since last night, and all my messages remain unread. I was going to tell her that I wanted her to come home today, but she wasn't there.
Sharon's taken a paid leave, you know.
Hearing this, I sadly left the place. Sharon, are you that angry? Why? Waiting for the elevator while grumbling within myself, I was called from behind. Mr. Mike. Turning around, Eddie was standing there. He asked me if I had a moment, and we entered the break room where the vending machines are.
Sharon's at my apartment.
He suddenly said that, and I didn't understand what he meant. What do you mean?
What I mean is, exactly that. Sharon is with me. She says she doesn't want to go back to you.
He said it mockingly, but I still couldn't understand what he meant. Eddie looked at me with pity and contempt and sighed.
I know it's rude to speak to my boss this way, but I won't hold back since it's a private matter. She wants to break up with you, so she's escaped to me. Do you get it now?
There's no way to understand. I felt the blood rush to my head. So, you guys are a thing.
Please stop using vulgar language. She is the most important thing in the world to me.
He said it brazenly. What is this guy talking about?
You're my boss, Mr. Mike, so I thought I'd keep it a secret, but since you're going to Japan, Sharon said it's okay to tell.
You? I grabbed Eddie's collar. We're at the office, please calm down. But who on earth can keep their cool? When did it start? When did you guys start this relationship?
It was long before you even met her, so you have no right to say anything.
Are you saying Sharon's been betraying me since before our marriage? I raised my fist but was easily dodged. Then, I fell forward and got to my knees. Eddie straightened his disheveled tie. He looked down at me and smirked.
Either way, you're going to Japan, right? It's good. I didn't want it to be awkward in the same workplace. Leave her to me and pursue your career without any worries.
He waved his hand lightly and left the break room. I was stuck in place and unable to move. I did get to see Sharon later. She only said I'm sorry and please break up with me when I questioned her about her relationship with Eddie. Our conversation remained as far apart as ever, and the day to leave for Japan came. In the end, the divorce papers were still pending and packed in my suitcase. I don't care if I'm considered a fool. I still love Sharon, even now. I didn't want to break up. I thought I'd accept the divorce if her decision hasn't changed when I return in 3 years. In Japan, I worked frantically. I didn't want to think about anything else, so I worked to the point where everyone around me was amazed. You are much more serious than the serious Japanese, my colleagues would say, astonished. Thanks to that, I was able to avoid thinking about Sharon. I didn't receive any contact from her while in Japan. I suppressed the urge to call her many times and immersed myself in work. After 3 years, the feeling of resignation grew stronger. I had reached the point where I thought I would grant Sharon the divorce she wanted once I returned home. 3 years flew by, and 1 week before returning home, a letter arrived. It was addressed to the company and placed on my desk when I came to work. Who could it be? I wonder if I even know anyone who writes letters these days. Picking it up with curiosity. Even at Christmas, people send emails and text messages instead of cards. It's been years since I've received an actual letter. The sender's name is not written on it. When I open the envelope, there are several sheets of paper inside.
To Mike, I hope you are well. It's Sharon's mother.
What? I can't help but scream. People around me stare at me, puzzled. I hurry into an empty conference room. I unfold the paper with trembling hands and start reading. What was written there was a shocking truth and deep words of apology.
Sharon is not my real daughter. Her birth mother suffered from mental illness and abandoned her, leaving her and going out of the house. I, who remarried her father, have raised Sharon as if she were my real daughter. She has always been grateful for that. That's why she couldn't leave me who is weak, and she didn't follow you, Mike. I'm truly sorry.
The letter contained even more surprising truth. When I finished reading, I was so stunned that I crumbled to the spot. If this is true, I must go back and meet Sharon and Eddie. A week later, after returning, I headed straight for the company. The letter said that Sharon quit the company when I went to Japan. So it was not Sharon I wanted to see, but Eddie. I headed straight to Eddie's desk, briefly greeting my boss. It was just about lunchtime. I finally reached Eddie, annoyed by the employees who talked to me every time I passed by. Eddie looked at me in surprise. I have something to talk about. As I say that, Eddie obediently stands up and follows me. We enter a cafe on the first floor of the building. We don't speak a word to each other until the coffee arrives. You're Sharon's brother, aren't you? As I say this quietly, shock runs across his face. A man who is usually so calm showed his first signs of being flustered. I got a letter from your mom. As I say this, I take the letter from my bag and hand it to him. Drinking a cup of coffee, I wait until he finishes reading. About halfway through, he looks up and sighs.
I'm sorry for keeping it a secret.
He apologizes, bowing his head deeply. I look at his crown with mixed feelings. Eddie and Sharon are half-siblings. Eddie is a son that came into existence when his mom remarried Sharon's dad. They seem to have been close siblings. Eddie, who started to work at the branch of the same company as Sharon, commuted from home and took care of his mom who had asthma. But then he got transferred to the main office. He wanted to quit and stay with his mom, but Sharon said, "Now it's my turn to take care of mom."
I'll quit my job and go back home. You've been with mom all along. It's my turn now.
At her words, he asked, "But what about Mike?" Then Sharon seems to have asked him not to tell me.
You're a kind person, Mike, so she thought that if she had told you everything, you'd have said you'd quit your job and follow her. You're talented, so she didn't want to take your future away from you.
Why didn't you tell me you're Sharon's bro? Sharon also never mentioned having a brother, and you didn't even come to the wedding, did you?
I think she didn't want you to know about her past. Sharon had suffered harsh treatment from her birth mom. She didn't want to say that her current mom wasn't the real one. She loves her that much.
It was a story that made sense in a way but was also very complicated. In other words, didn't she choose her mom over me?
In order to make you give up on her, Sharon pretended to have an affair with me. I played the part of a nasty man.
Didn't you enjoy it quite a bit? I meant it sarcastically, but Eddie laughs. Oh, you knew. I thought about hitting him, but his bright smile made me lose the urge.
Sharon loves you, Mike. Please believe her.
When he said that, I nodded. I decided to go see her and arranged for Eddie to guide me to her home. On Sunday, we drove 3 hours in Eddie's car to Sharon's family home. There is a small cafe tucked away in the mountains that looks like something out of a fantasy novel. Upon opening the thick wooden door, I heard a voice say, "Welcome." It's the first time I've heard Sharon's voice in 3 years.
Mike.
Long time no see.
What? Why? Why are you here? Why is Eddie with you?
Everything's out in the open now.
As Eddie spoke, Sharon turned bright red in an instant. She confronts Eddie. "You told him, didn't you?" she exclaimed.
I sent the letter.
Her mill emerged from the back kitchen as saying so.
I don't want you to lose someone you care about by telling a stupid lie, especially when it's for my sake. It's unbearable.
As she patted Sharon's shoulder, she bowed her head to me. I also bowed and stood in front of Sharon. Before I could say anything, my hands reached out. I hugged Sharon, who shivered with a startle as hard as I could. The customers looked at us in shock, but I didn't care at all. Having Sharon in my arms, I was so happy I could cry. Since then, we've been a long-distance married couple. Sharon lives with her mill, and I came back to my town. I'm planning to bring Sharon and her mill here, but since the country air is better for asthma, Sharon has been coming to me for the weekends. We've been doing a weekend marriage. When she asked me, "Is that okay?" I replied, "Just promise me one thing. Never lie to me again." That's how we got to where we are now. That's all well and good, but for some reason, Eddie has moved into my apartment, and we're living together. I'll go back to Mom's on weekends, so I won't bother you, okay? And with that, he pushed his way in. Thanks to that, we've become good friends. Having never had a brother, it felt like I had gained a younger one, and I am happy. I don't know when Sharon and I will live together again, but thanks to Eddie, I'm not lonely. So I intend to wait forever for the day when Sharon agrees and returns to my side.